today is how to make a bowl using what's called a press mold or a slump mold. Now last year we did drape molds where we kind of used a bowl or a mold to drape the clay over the back of it to give it shape. Here, you just throw it, thanks. This time we're going to be using the inside of a bowl for our mold, and we're going to press the clay into it or kind of slump it down inside it, and that's where it gets the name from. So I've started off by making a slab. Well, let me backtrack. First thing we want to do is decide which bowl we're going to use for our mold. That's the very first thing you want to do before you decide how much clay you need or whatever. So I'm going to use this kind of bigger one. So I've got that. I got some clay. I'll probably need more, but this will get me started. I went ahead and got some leaves from outside that I'm going to press into the clay. And outside the door over here, we've got a sycamore tree that has some really good leaves. And then this was like a little spaghetti squash plant growing out there. So I thought I'd do something different and use some of the leaves from that. If you want to bring in stuff from home like elephant ears or any other plant leaves, those work well too. So just kind of think about what's available. So I've got my leaves, I've got the bowl. First thing I'm going to do is sort of look and see ahead of time like how I can sort of arrange these in here and kind of figure out about how many I might need. So I'm probably going to do 4 because this takes up about half, so maybe if I layer a couple more, so about 4 of these would cover the inside of the bowl. So I'm going to set that aside. I've went ahead and rolled up my slab to 1/4 inch thick. I feel like any thinner than that is going to be dangerous and probably break, so don't go any thinner. And I'm just going to smooth this out a little bit first, try to get these little dents out of it. You can also use a smooth rib to kind of scrape over it. Air bubble. So smooth that out, and then the next thing we're going to do is roll the leaves through. So I'm going to go ahead and position this kind of toward the edge, and the clay should be kind of sticky so you can kind of stick it down in place. Put this canvas over the top. It's still set on 1/4 inch from when I rolled it through. I'm not going to adjust that, I'm just going to leave that because I don't want it to be pressed too far into the clay, but just enough to leave the impression. I'll come back through this way. Okay. Now, I'm going to cut the leaf out. So, use a needle tool or any other sharp object. I would do this before you pick the leaf up. I wouldn't worry too much about the stem. We're just trying to get the leaf itself. The stem's not really going to be important. So I'll just pull away that extra. And now I can pull up the leaf. Hopefully. And you may have to tear up your leaf when you do this, and if you do, it's okay. You just get some more. Go from this end. Well, this one's left a really nice texture. Okay, I probably pressed it in a little bit too hard. Let's see if I pick it up, if I have any better luck. See how nice the texture looks on that though? Now we're going to want this to be on the outside of the bowl, so when you put it in your mold, you're going to make sure that this is facing outward. If your leaf's not completely destroyed, you can use it again, but you may have to just get another one. Now I could leave this in here and just let it burn away, but the only thing is when you do have organic material like this that burns off in the kiln, it leaves like a resin on the that's in the kiln, and that kind of makes them break down faster, so we try not to do that. Okay, so I'm going to take this carefully and lay it in here. Kind of position it where I want it. it stick out a little on that edge. And then I'm going to see if I have enough to make another one. I think I do. So move this over. I'm going to smooth this part out because it got a little messed up. Get rid of that leaf debris. Okay, and now I'm going to use the other one and do the same thing with this piece. I think I can squeeze it in here. Should be able to get most of it. Since they are going to overlap, if it cuts off a little bit, it won't hurt it. Okay, let me work this back through here. And for your bowl to be successful, you're probably going to need at least 3 leaves, depending on the size of your bowl and the size of the leaves. And you want to think about the arrangement. You don't want it to look lopsided. You want it to be fairly even all the way around, so keep that in mind. Okay, so now I'll cut out this one. Pull the leaf up. Hopefully this one will be a little bit easier than the last one. There we go. Same thing, I'm going to lay the design on the outside. Here's the leaf. And I want to position it so this piece is about the same level as the one across from it, so that it's nice and even. Okay, so I'm just going to push it in there. Now, if you're using really plastic wet clay, you don't need to score and slip. What you'll do, once you have your pieces together, you'll simply blend the clay together really well. So, let me set this aside. I'm going to take my smooth rib, this works really well, and just kind of scrape these pieces together. You want to make sure that you kind of even it out, because anywhere there are 2 overlapping pieces, it's going to be a little thicker. So kind of scrape off the excess, make sure it's nice and even. Take a little of that extra clay out. Now, I don't have 2 other leaves at the moment, so I'll have to go get those. But what I'm going to do is make 2 more, and I'll lay one here and one here, and then I'll blend those in. And then once I've done that, then I can go around and kind of smooth out the edges with a sponge, make sure there's no rough edges. And then I'm also going to smooth out the inside, make sure it's nice and even, make sure there's no cracks, that kind of thing. And then once I'm satisfied with it, I'll let it dry. Now once it dries, it will shrink. As it shrinks inward some, it'll pop off the bowl, and you should be able to lift it out of the bowl with no problem. You may have to kind of invert it and do it like this, but once it gets leather hard, you'll be able to remove it from your bowl. And at that point, you can make any adjustments to the outside of it. If you have rough spots, you can kind of sponge over those or smooth them out, and of course put your initials on the bottom. That's pretty much it. Does anybody have questions?